Newsmax had a worker named David Manning on to talk to him. I mean, they sort of started their framing as like, oh my God, you can't shut down the economy. He educates them in the segment about exactly what their concerns are. And these Newsmax hosts are kind of shocked about how unfair the treatment is. Yeah. Let's take a listen to that.
David, we did reach out to the Association of American Railroads, and they say that workers get sick days and paid time off. But what I want to talk to you about is, what does this mean for Americans if you do go on strike?
Well, whoever told you we get our sick days is manipulating the data. We get paid time off that we earned the previous year before. Before the new policy came about, we were allowed to take 5 days off and 2 weekend days off a month. Now we could take virtually 1 day unpaid off a month. And then the only other time we could take off is our paid time that we had to earn the previous year.
Yeah, that does seem ridiculous. They would never let airline pilots do that. Is that issue number one for members of the unions?
100% is number one. And if we go on strike, yes, it could hurt the economy. It could be bad for society, but we don't want to do that. None of us want to do that.
Well, and I know Amtrak's already suspended.
We're not asking for the world here. We're asking for a few days off a month to spend with our family instead of living on a train. We spend 240 to 260 hours a month sitting on these trains or sitting at the hotel rooms away from our families.
That's a lot.
When I leave my house to go to work, I'm gone for at least 2 to 2.5 to 3 days.
I didn't realize that, David.
I come home and I'm only allowed to be home for 10 hours.
Wow.
And then I can be called to go right back to be gone for 3 days.
You have a family?
Yes.
Kids?
My kid is 17 years old.
Wow.
I mean, that one host actually makes a good point. They would never let airline pilots.
That was what I was saying about freight. Yeah. I'm like,
this is kind of important.
Listen, I mean, we all learn, we had those 2 pilots. Well, maybe one. I don't know about the other one. But for MH370, still a lot of questions about that one. I mean, the guy, literally crashed a plane into the side of a mountain because he went crazy. So we should probably do everything in our power in order to make sure that never happens again.
Yeah.
And this is probably a key part of it. No, I think it's completely insane. And again, the Newsmax thing illustrates my point, which is that when you try and look at it in the aggregate, you're like, what are these guys doing? They're going to crash the economy. Is this like the railway strike of 1946? No, it's not. It's not the same in any way. The dude laid it out perfectly. He's like, listen, I'm gone for 3 days. I come home for 10 hours. I can't take time off whenever I get sick. And the time off that we accrue is based upon the previous year of work, which means if you start your job right now, and this belies, which is that this is very important to the entire economy, so you should pay people well. That's obvious. I mean, commiserate to your value.
Yeah.
You should get paid. And the problem right now is that the Union Pacific and the railway companies are making money hand over fist. In fact, I pulled the economic data before this. Krystal, they're spending billions of dollars buying back their own stock.
Yes, they are.
Dividends, paying out massive dividends for their shareholders. In fact, Union Pacific, for example, with a dramatically lower workforce, is making 85% more profit than it did in the year 2000. So consider that. They're making 85% more profit with a lower workforce and paying out even more to their shareholders and to their dividends and buying back their own stock. So take even a couple percent of that and you can afford what this deal is. Just to show you how unreasonable they really are being.
Completely unreasonable. And, most of the complaints here, like obviously everybody would like to get a raise. And I think if memory serves correctly, they haven't gotten any sort of a raise in years, which is ridiculous, again, given the profits that these freight carriers have been raking in, especially during the pandemic and post-pandemic. But it also shows you that a lot of the key concerns sometimes aren't actually about wages. They're about, can I live a life outside of my job? Can I just handle the basics of being able to go to the doctor or go to my kid's soccer game or whatever it is, actually see my family and have a family? That's really what this ultimately came down to. So again, we have some sort of a tentative deal. It's between the railroad bosses and the union leadership. They have to take that now to the membership, to the rank and file workers, and see whether it is sufficient. We have very limited details about what exactly is in this deal. It is a very, Jeff Stein was tweeting about the difference between how President Biden has approached this sort of seminal defining labor moment versus how Ronald Reagan did with the air traffic controllers back in the 80s. I think that's correct, but it also remains to be seen how good this deal actually is for workers or how much it falls on the side of the bosses. We just don't have that information yet to really make a judgment over how President Biden performed, who's going to ultimately benefit for this, and whether a strike has been actually averted or just pushed off for another 60 days.
Yeah, important context there. Look, I mean, the deal came out at 5:20 this morning. It's only been a couple of hours whenever you and I are filming this. We don't know. You know, we haven't even seen any worker reaction. Some people are still getting up. So we'll see what the overall thing seems to be. And yeah, I think we'll have coverage, and if we can, we'll do something emergency depends in order to react to whatever happens.
To the specifics of the deal. Cable news is ripping us apart, dividing the country, making it impossible to function as a society, and making it impossible to know just what is true and what is false. But the good news is they are failing and they know it.
That is why we're building something new, a new mainstream, a healthier one, something more trustworthy, something that we are going to need in one of the most pivotal times in American history. We are building up here for the midterms, for the upcoming presidential election, but we need your help. So if you can help us out by becoming a premium member today at breakingpoints.com, we're trying to change America for the better and the entire world.
So what are you waiting for, guys? Go to breakingpoints.com and sign up and help us build a new mainstream.